Good morning, everyone. I'm Mani. Welcome you all on behalf of entire CQS Training Private Limited team about digital image processing. I welcome you, Tanishq Bhatia, as a guest who is going to help us and enlighten all of us about the knowledge on digital image processing. He has completed his BS Mathematics of Computation from University of California, Los Angeles. He has enriched experience in research in applied mathematics, medical image project, deep dive into multi-parameter perceptions. He also 4 years of teaching experience as leader in UCLA mathematics department. And he has an ample experience in computer science, topology, applied mathematics, on complex analysis, and many more. I would request please enlighten all of us and share knowledge about digital image processing. Hand it over to you.
Hey, good morning, you all. Good morning, everybody. So thank you for that introduction. I'll start sharing screen now. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Just like a disclaimer, I want this session to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to unmute and ask questions at any time, and interrupt me if you don't understand anything. Just it's completely fine by me. Yeah, let's begin. So today I'm going to talk about digital image processing. So I mean, I had a slide about myself, but the introduction covered it all. But so yeah, so I have a bachelor's in computational math from UCLA, and I'm going to be a PhD student. I don't know where. I'm still waiting for decisions, but I'm going to be a PhD student this fall. And so my main research interest is in applying topology to biomedical imaging. But topology is a very theoretical subject. You can ask me about it later in the Q&A section. So I'm not going to go into depth here in topology, but we'll talk about imaging. So let me pose a question to you all. What is an image? Feel free to shoot out answers. There's no wrong answer, just whatever you think counts as an image. Anyone?
Sir, जिसका particular हमारे पास visualization, I think it's called image.
That's a good answer. Any visual input, that's image. That's completely true. Yeah, exactly. So for us, okay, they should be, yeah. So any visual stimulus is basically an image. But what is an image for a computer? Does anybody have any guesses?
A series of bits.
Series of bits, that's true. But in what form? Like everything is a series of bits for a computer, right? Has anybody heard of the word megapixel in cameras?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean? So what actually happens in a computer, it considers it as an array of numbers, basically. Right? So it's basically a matrix of numbers. But what does this mean? So each number each number or entry in this matrix corresponds to intensity of a pixel. Pixel is the smallest element of light that a camera captures. And then each number corresponds to the intensity of the light that the camera had captured. Okay. So here we might be able to understand a little better. So so what an image is a bunch of pixels lined in a 2D array, right? So in this sort of grid-like fashion, there's just numbers, right? So computer understands an image. The higher the number, the higher the intensity captured by the camera. That's how the computer thinks about it. For us, it's like direct stimulation, right? Whatever happens in the eye, cones, nerves, neurons, whatever. But for a computer, the higher the intensity, the higher the number associated with that pixel. For instance, here you see that the number associated to the top left corner is 139. That's like some cloudy part, right? Some small cloudy part. And the number to the top right is 184. And that's like the white middle of the cloud, like the fluffy part, right? So 184 is higher than 139. That tells us that the computer perceives that this pixel, I hope you can see my cursor. Can you guys see my cursor? Is this better? Laser pointer? So
Yes, sir.
this section is lighter than this section. Would you all agree? Right? And again, like 92, that's like this steely part, Eiffel Tower. So it's like dark, right? It's like grayish, darkish. That's lower than 184, which is the brighter part of a cloud. So that's what an image is. And in context, so there's of course colored images, right? Like you can see my image in color, I presume. But for our context today, we'll just consider image as a grayscale image, like just black and white images, with computer thinking about it in terms of intensities and not colors. Right. So what is digital image processing? It's constructing suitable images from unsuitable ones. So can you guys think of examples where you have some unsuitable image, like some image that's not suitable for the purpose that you want, that you captured it in the first place, for which you captured it in the first place? Anyone? Has anybody taken like a bad selfie? Just like a random selfie that, your cousin just popped out of nowhere and just hit you on the hand, and now your face is all blurry or something like that. You must have done that, right? That I'm not the only one. Okay. Yeah, so basically that's what it is. How does a computer do that? How does a computer take an unsuitable image and make it into a suitable one? It just changes that array of numbers. It just finds a good way to change that array of numbers. Right? If you change that array of that number, for instance, if I just put each entry in this array to be 0, can anybody guess what would happen? How would a computer imagine this array of like zeros as an image? Anyone? Just
It would be a completely black picture.
Exactly, right? There's no intensity, there's no light. That's what it thinks. So if I can make a good image, this is a beautiful image of the Eiffel Tower into nothing, I could possibly make something out of a blurry picture, right? So that's the idea behind digital image processing. Okay. So why do we care about digital image processing? So any guesses? except selfies, like except making selfies better, or like Instagram filters? Any other applications that come to mind? Did somebody ever break their bone and have a fracture? Or like ultrasound or something like that? Right? Medical images, X-rays, MRIs. That requires a lot of thinking, right? You go into the hospital and there's like this huge MRI machine. There's like a huge CT scan machine with like a circular hole, and they just put you inside there. It's like scary. It rotates around you. Has anybody ever had that experience? I mean, that's an unfortunate experience, but I'm just wondering. So like, yeah, so that requires a lot of computing. And then does anybody know where this picture is from? 2019. Anybody interested in astronomy? No? Constellations, things like that? Anybody likes astronomy? So this is actually a picture from 2019. And okay, I forgot the scientist's name, but I think that's Lisa Bowman. And she captured the first image of a black hole. So everybody knows black holes, right? Like objects that just don't emit light, not only not emit light, but not let light pass. Basically just sucks all light. And we just discussed how a computer interprets an image as intensities of light. So how would you ever capture an image of a black hole, right? If you can't even capture light, how do I capture image of a black hole? Sounds impossible. But it did it. So then there's computer-centric applications. So there's applications where we want pictures to show to humans, right? We want to show, we have an MRI scan. We wanted to show to a doctor, gee, this is my MRI scan. What kind of disease do I have? And he's like, you don't have any disease. Just go have an aspirin and go to sleep. After you pay like $6,000 or something. And then you have these images which scientists want to study, like for instance, the black hole. But then there's computer-centric applications. Like everybody knows Elon Musk. Who's Elon Musk?
SpaceX CEO.
SpaceX, yes. What's his other company? His
Tesla.
other child. Tesla, yeah. What is Tesla famous for? It's electric.
car.
Yeah, but
Electric car.
other thing. There's another thing that Tesla is famous for. Self-driving, right?
Automatic driving.
Yeah, exactly. So self-driving cars, we need to have images, right? That a computer can understand. Like if I have just an array of images, an array of numbers. If I change one entry, human probably can't tell the difference. They'll interpret it still as an Eiffel Tower, right? Because it's just like one tiny pixel. But a computer is like, oh my God, what happened? Now the computer is confused. This is a completely different image. This is a completely different array, right? So we have to also process images so that a computer can understand if you want to work towards autonomous cars and autonomous robots. like things like handwriting recognition, for instance, and of course, image segmentation or like automated driving. Right? All right, let's talk about some human-centric processing. So what happens is that no physical instrument is perfect. You all understand that, right? No physical instrument can be perfect. So naturally occurring images are most of the time noisy. There's just random stuff going on. Like look at this MRI image. Like it's even hard to tell if there's a brain there or not. Now, if the patient takes this to a doctor, the doctor would be like, how is you still alive? Right? He'll be scared. So what we need to do is we need to have processes to interpret this noisy image as this image, an image without noise, image which contains actual information. So how do we do that? So we have this tool called filters. So what are filters? So the assumption here is the following, that each noisy part of the image has neighboring parts that contain information. That even if my pixel that I'm on right now is white, but it should be, let's say it's surrounded by black pixels. So I can guess, like for instance, here I can guess that, let's say where, okay, let's say on this boundary, right? That's the skull, right? So that's white generally. So if I see this black dot, that does not mean that there's a hole in the skull, right? In no way that means there's this like a just tiny million tiny holes inside this person's skull. That probably means that this was a noisy part. That this was somewhere where the physical instrument errored. So how do we deal with this? So the idea is to change the value of this noisy pixel by using the values surrounding it, right? So if, for instance, all of these are black and this is white, I want to make a white pixel. What does that mean? So if like this has value 0 and everything else around it has value, let's say 200, then I understand that this value must have been 200 as well. Or if not 200, let's say 199 or something like that. So how do we do that? We basically move throughout the image in this 3x3 square and average the values contained in these in this sort of sub-array of the image, subgrid, right? So, okay, so this is like 8th grade statistics, right? What kind of ways to average have we studied? What is an average? If I've given like 4 numbers, in what ways can I describe these collection of numbers? Oh, there's something in the chat. Okay, somebody said images of 2 type, array star and vector. Okay, that kind of image. No. Okay. So we are just assuming that these images are vector. It's just smooth. There's no gray, there's no sharp edges. We're just assuming that it's to some degree an actual representation of a physical object. And physical objects are generally smooth. So yeah, back to my earlier question. Like in like 6th class or something like that, we learned statistics, right? I hated statistics at that age. Like data handling. Has everyone seen data handling? With like those cars, and there's like one car is 100 vehicles, and then they just suddenly make half a car and they expect you to think about it in terms of 50 vehicles. Everybody's seen that, right? Come on, everybody must have seen that. Like, there's also like toys, yeah. So what kind of things they made you compute? You remember? 3Ms. They were like, oh, we'll give you these data, we'll give you this 10 numbers. 2 number का question था कि इसका ये compute करो, average compute करो. क्या करते थे? What did we do?
Just take their sum and then divide it by like the number of objects, I think.
Yes. But there were like two other things that they made you compute, and they were like equally ridiculous. Does anybody remember?
The mode and median, I think.
Yeah. Mode and median. What are they? I don't know. How do they do anything? So that's what we do here. So what linear filters are doing, like it's taking these 3x3 neighbors of this pixel and the pixel itself to compute a new value for this pixel, to construct a better image. So here, okay, it's moving forward. So this red pixel, right? It's some combination of values in this green box and the yellow pixel. Yes, that's what it means by weighted sum. Let's not go into details. So yeah, as I said, the idea is that any noise would, okay, that's a grammatical error, would occur at a small number of isolated pixels. So it's not everywhere. So not all pixels would have noise. That's the idea. Like, or even if they have noise, it's not noise worth dealing with. It's only noise that changes the characteristics of the pixel. Because again, you have to show this image to a human, right? If I change 1 or 2 pixels, the human would still get all the information they need. We'll talk about this in detail actually in coming slides. So that's the idea, that we use the neighbors of a pixel to change the, yeah? Question? Ravi, do you have a question? Don't see anything in the chat. Okay. So yeah, okay. So I have a demonstration for you guys. I'll reshare in a bit. Okay. In the meanwhile, does anybody have a favorite monument? So somebody has a question. What is the difference between raster images and vector images and filters used in images? Okay. So what raster images are, I think it's best I show you an example. Let's share screen. So can everybody see my screen? So raster image, right? It looks like this. So it's very pixelated. You see this? See this jagged line? Vector images are smooth. So basically, these are ways a computer understand an image. It's still an array of numbers, but if in vector interpretations, computer understands that you need to smoothen it out. But in raster images, the computer thinks it as literally, it literally assigns a value to a pixel and displays it as such. It literally communicates to the screen or the monitor that this is what you need to show, and this is exactly the intensity that you need to show. So you see the difference here? Beast, is that clear? Like if there's any like other specific difference, I wouldn't know, because for us, it's like we just consider images to be vector images. But yeah, like that's the general idea. And filters, what filters are doing is, I'll actually show you in the demonstration, right? So, Beast, do you have a favorite monument like Taj Mahal, India Gate, something?
इधर आ जाओ इतना सिस्टम तुम्हें कहाँ से दिखेगा
Sorry?
तुम्हारे इनके
Yeah, graphic design. Yeah, graphic design. Okay, I mean, I don't know much about graphic design. See, I'm a mathematician, so computer science is a bit away from me. Let's say, I think about things in an idealized term. I think of, so technically, if you draw a circle on a computer screen, it's like these small jagged lines like we saw with the raster image, right? But I just think of it as like a smooth circle. Yeah, I mean, of course, the faculty would be able to help you better here. So, any favorite monuments, like places to visit? No? I kind of like Taj Mahal. So let's just work with Taj Mahal, yeah? Okay. India Gate? India Gate, yeah? Okay. Okay, I started uploading Taj Mahal, but we can restart, of course. So let's look at India Gate. Is this let's say, which one should we use? Which has like high contrast, maybe? Like something like this. This image. Does everybody like this image? Yeah. So yeah, okay, I'll upload this. Okay. So we have uploaded that image. And now, unfortunately, we are still working with grayscale images. It's like hard enough for like me to understand grayscale. So color images are like a little bit off. Okay, so that's the image in grayscale, just black and white. So what are we going to do now? We're going to add some noise to this image. Just randomly add. So we have those numbers, right? We're going to randomly change those numbers. So there's some code here, but that doesn't matter a lot. It matters, of course. But do you guys see that this image is like much more grainier? It's like, it looks like it's been taken from like a 20-year-old phone. Like I say 20-year-old, but like 5-year-old even. Like 2 megapixel, iPhone 3G. Or like, what was What's the worst phone you can have? Micromax. Do people remember Micromax? That was a thing a while back, right? Yeah. So like microphone, I remember Micromax phones were infamous for their bad cameras. Is that true? Or is that not true? People must remember that. The Nokia brick phone. So yeah, so this looks much worse, right? But how much worse? Let's see. So what we are doing here is that I'm going to take this list of numbers and subtract this list of numbers from it. So whatever remains is extra, right? That's the noise that I added. Would everyone agree? That if I had, let's say this pixel had value like 2, right? And now this pixel has value 30. That means that I added 28, right? So let's see what that difference looks like. See, that's it. Like TV screen. Remember that old analog antenna TV screen? Just random things happening with that sound. That's what it looks like at the moment. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we're going to apply the median filter. So as we saw here, right? In this green box, I'm going to take this green box and as we see here, apply throughout the image and take the median of this green box and put that value into the red box. That's what I'm doing. So the assumption here is that if you see these values in your green box, you see that 97 is out of place. Some of the other numbers are very small compared to 97. 97 is huge, like 19 to 97. How many times is that? I think that's like 5 times, more than 5 times. Right? Definitely there is something wrong here. 97 should not be there. So what do I do? Is like I arrange them in a list and pick the middle value. I arrange them in ascending order, then just pick the middle value. That's the median, right? That's what I'm doing here. Now Python is so convenient. So this is all Python, by the way. I should have mentioned it. This is all happening in Python. So Python is so convenient that you have those filters built into the language itself. There's a library called CQS Imaging, and they have all of these filters built in. So let's see what happens. Does that look a little bit better? Less noise maybe? Looks a little bit blurrier, but looks a little better. Less random things going on. Okay, I guess in this system it does not. But that's the idea. Like this blurry image is better than a noisy image. Would you agree? For instance, if I increase the noise a little bit, then the results could be catastrophic. But a blurry image still helps you understand that there's an India Gate over here, there's some trees, there's some people. So let's see what the difference here looks like. You see this? The detail is clear here. Where there was random noise in this instance, in this difference, now we can see there's clearly detailed preserved. Would you guys agree? Oh, so we have questions in the chat. But can you use Adobe Photoshop for converting raster to vector image? I don't know. I've never worked with Photoshop. I think some of you might be better with Photoshop than I am. Even graphic design, I wouldn't know, like I said. I'm in the maths domain, not the CS/design domain. But I assume so. Because even online, there's like converters, right? That change a TIFF image to JPEG, JPG, JPG, and so on. So I assume so. Your faculty would be able to help you out. Maybe you can put names and contact details of graphic design faculties in the chat. Yeah, and they'll be able to help you out better. Like anything I say might be wrong. I don't want to misguide you guys. But yeah, this is the idea. It's like there's more detail preserved once you apply median filtering. Okay, so that was a demonstration. I planned a bigger demonstration here, but that might get too technical. So we'll move on. We're also, I think, running out of time. So back to the slideshow. So computer-centric processing. Now we want to feed images into a computer. Now this is a fun exercise. Okay. So there's something called gestalt psychology. So can anybody tell me what's happening in this first image? Do you see any groups? Any groups here? Like, can you, for instance, draw a line through this set of points and divide it into two parts, which are like really different? Like right to the middle, right? Red versus blue. Yeah, exactly. Red group versus blue group. Now this image, for instance, what do you see? Do you see like a random zigzag that's like going through like this randomly, or do you see rings? Like, do you see a random curve or do you see rings? You see rings, right? You see like those Olympic rings, maybe the rowdy rings. Yeah, exactly. You understand that these are rings overlapping each other. These things are not connected. They look connected, but they're not. Now the same thing as before, like these dots. Can you draw a line that separates them into two different groups, which are clearly different? Like right through the middle here, right? Because these are one collective, these are another collective. Now again, this thing, even though it's like discrete points, most of you understand that this is like one continuous string of points. And then here, what do you see in this image? Anybody? Put it in the chat. So there you will see a diamond shape. This forms a diamond. If you tell me that you see a diamond, or if you tell a child or someone who's like, who wants to have fun, he'll be like, क्या बात कर रहा है? ये तो चार कुछ लाइनें बना रखी है. Is there a diamond actually there? No, right? But you still see a diamond. There's like चार angle है. Why do we see a diamond? Any guesses? Exactly. We fill in the gaps, right? We fill in the gaps. We just make the shape continuous. But can a computer do that? Right? A computer can't understand it. Computer's confused. It's like list of numbers. पहले भी list of number दिया, अब भी list of number दिया. If I fill this up, make a diamond, give it to a computer, it's a list of numbers. If I leave the gaps and I give it to a computer, it's still a list of numbers. The computer can't understand what's happening. So what do? We tell the computer what's important. Okay. We tell the computer what's important. We decide the important parts. So how do we do it? We use filters again. So can anybody tell me what's happening here in this image? Maybe I should turn on laser pointer. So what's happening here? So this is an image, right? And this is that image modified. But why would anybody take this beautiful image into this image? Can anybody guess what's happening here? Why did I throw out everything else and just this? Any guesses? So this image only consists of edges from this image. You see? It's just edges. Okay, artistic effect. Again, I'm not from design domain. I don't care. It's the same thing for me. But you see here, it's preserving the edges. So now I can tell the computer the only important part is the white pixels. Here I would have a hard time describing what's important, what's not. Suppose I want to design an algorithm, prep a computer to find hats in a picture. So all hats would have some edges. There would be some boundary between an edge and the person's head, or an edge and the sky, or let's say, or like the background, right? There must be some difference. Oh, maybe I should have a hat for like this demonstration. Like the Gaussian blur you see on my screen, right? Like the filter that Zoom uses. You see my video? Everybody sees my video? You see that blur, right? Behind me? It's not actually there. There's actually a whiteboard here. Not all blurry. So how is the computer deciding on what is my face and what is the background? It's using the edges, right? It's using the edges of my face, of my silhouette. That's what it's doing. So this is what we are trying to do here. We're just trying to filter out the edges from that image. So how do we do that? So the idea is that the image intensity changes quickly when we pass through an edge. Like one instance, it's white, or let's say gray. Suddenly it goes black, then it goes to white again. That's the idea. So moving backwards. For instance, imagine like suppose this strand of hair, right? This girl's strand of hair, and we zoom in a lot, right? Vector images again. So it's like smooth. So when passing through, thinking about the strand of hair, like just suppose this is the strand of hair. Do you see? It's like black strip. That's just the black strand of hair. Just to the left of that strand would be her skin. Let's say it's white. And just to the right, it's lit part of her hair, also like whitish grayish. It's like lighter than the edge part or the strand of hair. So if I chart the intensity is high here, and then it suddenly becomes low, then it becomes high again, right? Makes some sense? Little bit. Okay, so those of who know calculus, right? They will understand that this means that the first derivative spikes. But for us, we'll think about it in these terms. Right? It suddenly dropped to black, then it goes back to white. So again, I have another demonstration. This time, I guess we'll stick with Taj Mahal, because just for the sake of time, that's the one I have at hand. I'll reshare screen now. So everybody sees my screen. Yeah. Okay, it's still taking a while to upload. But okay, have you all been to? Okay, now it's uploaded. We can begin. So again, the same PLP is not defined. That's fine. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll reshare screen now. Hopefully this works. Okay, so now everybody sees Taj Mahal. It's like right there. Grayscale version of that. So now we're going to detect edges. We're going to detect edges in 3 ways. This first thing we're going to explore is Robert's cross operator. So what this operator does is that instead of looking at right-hand side and left-hand side, like we looked at that strand with that strand of hair, right? We looked at the left-hand side part and the right-hand side part. It looks at diagonally opposite parts. And it sees how intensity changes along diagonals, right? So like this, not like this, but like this. So this is what it looks like. You see that it's looking at edges this way. It's trying to filter out edges that have huge amount of change in the diagonal directions. Then we have the Sobel operator, which works in horizontal and vertical direction this way at the same time. Let's see what that looks like. So this. So again, a lot of edges, but it's looking at both horizontal and vertical directions. Now it's char operator, which first goes along the horizontal direction and then goes along the vertical direction. Python's so convenient that all of these filters are built in, pretty much built in. It just took like 3 lines of code. Okay, this pre-processing part, it's mostly because I'm using an online platform. But after that, it's just 3 lines of code. So this is what the char operator looks like. First, you filter out horizontally, then vertically. So do people have any preferences here out of these 3? Like which image do they like better? First one. People who like the first one, Robert's cross, put a 1 in the chat. So why do the images look so similar? Okay, yes. So Aditi likes the third one. Okay. And so, okay, let me address the question. Because edges are edges, na? These are edges. Most of the edges are well defined enough that any criteria I apply on them, they would come out as edges, right? मतलब अगर how to explain this? मगर अगर मेरे पास अगर एक डॉग है, वो चाहे माल्टीज हो, शिज़ू हो, रॉटवीलर हो, जर्मन शेफर्ड हो, डॉग है तो डॉग है ना. एनी क्राइटेरिया अप्लाई ऑन इट, डॉग है तो डॉग है. लेकिन अगर बिल्ली है, बिल्ली भी मैं लगाऊंगा क्राइटेरिया तो नहीं हो सकता ना. बट मे बी इफ आई हैव समथिंग, लेट्स से अ वुल्फ डॉग हाइब्रिड, राइट, तो उसमें there might be some confusion. So yeah, so all of these look similar, but if you look closely, yeah, that's the only difference now. But there's like more. So somebody in the chat asked the direction in which the operators are working is the only difference. That's the only difference at the moment. But there's like other operators which build upon this idea, upon these ideas. So if you look closely, this image has more edges compared to this image, the second one, which has more edges compared to the first one. Would you all agree? It's more red. More red means more edges detected, right? It's more red. I'll even chart the differences to show you guys. So that's the first one minus the third one, I guess. So, okay, so a faint outline. Now it's the second one minus the third one. It's even fainter, right? So that means that these amount of edges were added when I worked horizontally, then vertically, after working instead of working diagonally. See what I mean? Like this amount of detail was added. Isn't that weird? Yeah. Like okay, they look visually very similar, right? But for a computer, again, even a small difference, even a value, if I change the value by 1, it's like computer's like completely lost. Like what happened? Right? It's like, oh my God, the whole thing is different now. So you see the amount of changes it can bring. So this is the first image. Okay, I'll type it here actually. So that's the first image minus the third. Okay, I can't format it at the moment, but that's the idea. So people generally prefer the third one. Yeah. Third one, I think, was it Aditi? Aditi like the third one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Why do you like the third one? Brighter? Easier to see?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But the thing is, the computer prefers the first one. That's how different the human thinking and computer thinking can be. Okay. So the computer likes more specificity. It's like, tell me exactly what an edge is. I don't want confusion in life. Tell me exactly what an edge is. Like as I lower down, it's easier for the computer to understand. As I put more and more restrictions. So that's like another idea that I wanted to show. All right, let's move on. This has gone on for way too long, yeah. So yeah, but why should computers see? Anybody believe that Elon Musk AI will take over the world theory? Or like, have you guys seen Will Smith in iRobo, where the robots just go evil? Star Wars, oh, it's Star Wars. Technically, robots don't go evil, but it's a sci-fi, general sci-fi trope, right? Anybody who's like against that? Anybody who's like, stop it right now? We don't want computers to see. We are the only one who should see. Nobody? Okay, very progressive people. So yeah, so we want computers to see because we eventually want computers to do our menial tasks for us. We don't want, we don't want to deal with things like driving. Why doesn't the car drive itself? Right. But secondly, that's my area of expertise. For medical tasks, computers, we almost need computers in today's day. Why? Because medical tasks are time critical and require cost-effective and optimal situations or solutions. Time critical because even a day's delay in putting a patient into care can mean life or death. if I delay a patient's admission into an hospital or some specific treatment, that could mean death, right? Especially in times of corona. Like suddenly people are recovering and then suddenly the next day they're dead. Yeah. And secondly, I needed to be cost effective. Like how are people supposed to afford like doctors and labs? Start taking like days and days upon days to single out one single disease. That's not good, yeah. In like rural hospitals and like places like Africa, people are dying from disease every day. And then secondly, I needed to be optimal. I need to be exact. I need to say exactly what disease is there. Because if I give the wrong treatment, that also means death. I can't be like, oh, malaria tha, dengue ka treatment kar diya, ye to theek nahi hai na. Like for instance, abhi corona, like you can't use, okay, I don't know the specific, but they say don't eat Flexon if you have fever nowadays. Use Dolo instead. Because some chemical in Flexon aggravates coronavirus. Something like that, right? So yeah, so you can't give an incorrect treatment. You can't misdiagnose at all. You need to have the correct diagnosis in the shortest span possible and in the cheapest way possible. So this is what example is. So this is what one of my research papers was on. So there is a phenomena. So let's talk about gastrointestinal cancer, stomach cancer basically. So there is a phenomena on the tumor called microsatellite stability, right? It's basically a genetic phenomena. So technically it has nothing to do with imaging, right? It just has to do with your DNA. That's the procedure to determine it. So there's some DNA mismatch repair deficiency, like the DNA is not repairing itself, repair itself properly, and that's what's causing these tumors in the first part. And then second part, this phenomena where you have some instability of the tumor. I don't know what exactly this is because again, biology is not my domain, but that's what's happening. So earlier, there's treatments for, so let's say abbreviate here, MSS. So there's treatments for MSS tumors and there's treatments for MSI tumors. So earlier, when patients had to get admitted, doctors would take their tissue, do genetic analysis of each and every cell in that tissue to find out if they have MSS or not. First of all, it took days. Second, it took special instruments. It took, a lab worker, someone who's researching this, and he used to do this process. Somebody who's working with genetics and so on. And then again, okay, I mean, I can't really say that their diagnosis was incorrect because most of the time it was correct, but it took a long time. Imagine like thousands upon thousands of patients and doing this for each and every one of them. It's almost impossible. So what one of the papers did is like it used the image of the tumor to predict if they have microsatellite stability or instability, which is insane if you think about it. It found out genetic information by simply using the images, which was thought to be, let's say, improbable earlier. So that's the power of computers. You can gain information that humans just simply cannot by using computers. So there's questions in the chat. How is the computer identifying the edges using an array of numbers? Okay. So the idea there was that you have some high intensity here, low intensity on the strand of hair or the edge, and then high intensity again. So the graph looks like this. So it's high, then low, then high again. You see what I mean? So these are numbers, right? So it's like 250 here, then 0 and 250. So wherever this happens, I know it's an edge. So what the filters are doing is that they're approximating the gradient or the derivative. Is that clearer? DK, Malik? Is that clear? I hope that's like slightly better. I can talk about this later. So yeah, that's the idea. So, okay, so this is something that, so we use the convolutional neural network, which basically is intelligent applying of those filters that we just saw and feeding them through a neural network, which is a very upcoming topic in machine learning. But don't worry about it. So what's the future? The future actually is self-driving car, like literally. It uses the LiDAR imaging, which is, laser-based imaging of the environment, which basically tells you where physical objects are, along with images in real time, like as you are driving the car, to divide the area into boxes like we see here, into boxes to identify objects. Isn't that insane? Isn't that very cool? Like the computer is literally using these like as we said, CNN, convolutional neural networks, which are basically intelligent applications of those filters we saw, and using that to actually see. That's basically what we see, right? That's how we interpret. like मैं गाड़ी चला रहा हूँ तो मेरे को ग्रीन कार दिख रही है तो आई नो कि मतलब मेरे को फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि वो होंडा है कि BMW, मेरे को यही मैं अगर ठोकूं ना बस, right? That's the only thing that matters to me when I'm driving, that not to just smash into another car. So that's what this is doing here as well. This point, a computer has a physical model, and an accurate one at that, at almost no cost. Isn't that insane? So in self-driving cars, they would capture the images real time, then compute this, right? Yes. Not even capturing at that point. It's feeding, not saving those images. It's literally just feeding it into that network and saving this representation. So earlier you would save that image. You saw how long it took me to upload that single Taj Mahal image, right? Upload it to some server, right? But here it's not like that. You're not saving at all. You're just getting that input. You're instantly processing it and instantly creating a model, an accurate one at that. Isn't that insane? So this is termed as the 4D neural net because it's using time as well as 3 dimensions. So yeah, so this image processing has a lot to say about the future. That's the point. Yeah, that's the end of my talk. There's some resources here that you guys can use to learn more about image processing. I would recommend taking a screenshot of this. If you like my presentation or if you hated it, most of the inspiration came from here. So these people are as much to blame as I am. But yeah, those are the resources that I used. But yeah, that's my talk. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Questions about, is it possible to put the links in the chat? Yes, that's a great idea. Thank you. I'll put it in the chat. Oh, I actually didn't send it to everyone. Does everybody have those links now? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Any question at all? Like generally about mathematics, imaging, doing PhDs, overthinking, underthinking, making bad presentations. Any questions? I mean, I guess we are also out of time. Yeah. Yeah. Should we call it then, ma'am?
Thank you so much, Tanesh. Anyone of you have any type of any doubt? Whoever, feel free to ask their doubts.
Yeah. Any question at all. Kundan says thanks. Thank you for listening, Kundan. Thank you for
Thank you, sir.
attending. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Right. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you stay connected with CQS as well. And do talk about this talk with your faculty. Like, people are talking about design questions, Raster versus vector images, and so on. Do mention that to your faculties. Maybe they'll point something out that I couldn't. So yeah, please stay engaged. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for giving such a great content in such a great lecture. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, be at your home. Have a nice day.
I'm going to leave now. Is that fine?